Hi. Okay, so for this video, I'm going to do how all 12 signs deal with conflict because I've noticed that each sign has their own unique way of dealing with conflict with people and their anger and like how they transmute it and work through it, right? So I'm going to go through all 12 and I'm going to do um just short descriptions so that this doesn't get too long, but yeah, so I'm going to start with Aries. Aries deals with conflict in a very quick way. It's like they might get really angry, but then I also notice that they get over it quickly as well. So it's like it can just go like a quick spurt of anger, and then in the next 15 minutes they're over it, they moved on, and they've just decided that they're gonna deal with it on their own, right? Like Aries is the emperor, so Aries is just gonna do it themselves. Like, you don't need to help me, I got it. And it's like they have an like explosive way of expressing anger, right? Because I think of it as like the lighting of a match or of a lighter, like that first spark is Aries. So that's how they deal with that energy, like you might get a burst of anger, a big burst that is like a little shocking to you. And then just like that, it's out. So that's Aries. They quick to feel it and then quick to get over it. Taurus deals with conflict literally the opposite. I think of it as like a bull sitting in a big grass field, and the bull notices that there's conflict in its comfortable grass field, and then instead of, it's not going to charge, it's just going to sit there, notice it, and then block itself off from it and stay chill. So I feel like Taurus will hold grudges for a very long time. They'll sit with it. They know it, right? Like they know it, they're mad at it, they feel it, but they'll sit with it and they'll hold it for a long, long, long time, even like past when it's over. So if Aries gets over it quick, Taurus is still thinking about it and holding a grudge, right? Because Taurus also moves very slow, is very methodical, and very hard-headed. So in a Taurus's mind, they're replaying the conflict, but they're not always particularly forward about it either. And mind you, in the astrology chart, all 12 signs, we all have all 12 signs, right? So it kind of also depends on where you have these signs in your chart to kind of show your personality. But I know that that is something that Tauruses do, like the grudge holder. And then, but will act like they don't care, and at the same time, like it's a very internal process, I feel like, is what I've noticed for Taurus. Okay, so then Gemini, because it's the two twins, it's kind of like you never exactly know what you're gonna get with a Gemini. And it's like the depending on where they're at is what you're gonna get from them, like in some days they might go the shadow way, right? The dark way. You might get a side of them that's like a little bit more vicious, like I'm kind of thinking of light and dark, and how it's like the two twins, the dark twin and the light twin. So they might go dark on you, or it's like you'll get the light side, but internally you know that they're mad, but then it's like they reflect it in a light way. But it's like, and then it can switch at any moment. So they might like they might say something really, really dark, or like show you their dark side in a weird way that's kind of surprising to you, and then switch it back to the light side. Or I feel like I've also noticed with Gemini, like they might be thinking with the dark side, but then their light side is what they'll show you, even if they're mad. Like laugh it off, but then not really in their mind, you know? So it's like it depends. Sweet like Sour Patch. I think of Gemini always as a Sour Patch Kid. Sweet, sour, gone. Kind of, you know? Like that's kind of that energy for real. Gemini, sweet and sour and gone. So that's how I think about that. Cancer. So I feel like Cancer is a kind of, it's active water. So a Cancer, I feel like feels everything. They feel it all, and they might sit in it and feel it all. And then possibly channel it creatively as well, but it's like they feel they're just feeling it, and it's and moving through all the emotions. So like whether or not they choose to show that to you, I feel like emotionally they're going through this kind of like, think of like a river, just kind of like feeling this way, feeling that way, feeling this way, feeling that way, and just kind of moving with it and transmuting it that way. It's kind of like an ideal way to transmute emotions, honestly, because Cancer is a very emotional sign, right? Like it's the mother sign. So I feel like they're very skilled at dealing with conflict and learning how to work through it. And if a Cancer is really in tune with themselves, they know how to feel their emotions and move with them. So that's what I will say for Cancer. Okay, Leo. Sometimes I feel like Leo will make a performance out of it. Like they'll give you all this kind of like external expression with it. It's like because their heart is involved so often, like more than you think, that or more than it seems, I think. Like I feel like Leo, like you might look at a Leo and think that they really don't care, but a Leo's heart is so big that they've just learned how to protect it really well, I think. So it's like I'm gonna have to do parts with this. But let me see. Okay, I'm at Leo. I feel like it can be grand. Like a Leo can deal with it in a very grand way, grand gestures of dissatisfaction, grand actions, you know, grand expressions that can be very big. Or I'm just thinking of someone who will like I don't know, imitate you when they're angry, you know? Like let's say like at the lowest level, somebody who's just really really mad. You know, you're arguing with someone and you don't feel like you have to hold back. They might bring this like performance energy to it. And then also kind of and like very but like stoic at the same time, if that makes sense. Like very, it's like a powerful way of dealing with it. um and sometimes egotistical. Because I think something I've learned about Leo also is because their heart is big, once they're betrayed in a really big way, they have to find a way to protect their heart. And for someone who maybe isn't very spiritual, it's like they will just kind of they'll use their ego as a way to protect the heart, because that's already what it's for, basically. Like, in a way, that's how we use our ego, right? So then the ego can become inflated, and then they'll do all kinds of interesting things, to get back at you. Like, really, it is the sign of the narcissist. So it's like Leo will do whatever they like. They'll do all kinds of things, and then even treat you very stoically while they're doing these things. Like, it's just kind of like a action from the ego, because they're working very hard to protect this part of themselves. What comes after Leo? Virgo. Okay. So Virgo, I think that Virgo deals with conflict in a very sneaky way. They notice it all, they count it all. It's like a counting process. Not even so much as holding a grudge, but they notice it all. And then the way that they will critique it, a constant critique, and kind of just a picking and a noticing of all of the things that they see as an issue. And even though I don't think Virgos always mean to I don't think that always means to make conflict. You know what I mean? But just that by their picking and prodding, they're kind of naturally calling out for conflict sometimes. And like, they don't even really realize all the time that they're doing it. But they just have a way of noticing every little tiny issue because they're into the details. And because of that, it's really easy for them to offend, and they don't even realize. So I feel like they take note of the tiny things, and then they can use those whenever they want. Like, if they really have an issue with you, then that might be the time that they go ahead and kind of dispense out the issues with you that they see, like, that they've kind of put in their back pocket of like, these are your little ass problems, and now I'm gonna let you know about. And then they'll just dispense them when it's, conflict. And I'm thinking kind of more of confrontationally, but that can be with anything, right? Like, I'm thinking of like a confrontation between you and a loved one or something like that, right? How you like get your anger out towards each other and deal with that kind of conflict. But then that can go into many different places. So I think it's sneaky too with Virgo. Like, they notice it all, but they just might act like they don't. And then at the moment, the least moment when you want to hear any of that is when they're then going to tell you all of your issues that they see. You know what I mean? Like, that's how they do it. They notice it, they stash it like a piece of cheese, like a mouse in a piece of cheese. They stash it. And then it's like, when you see the tail of the mouse running across the floor, you've realized, like, that kind of energy of like, I got you. Like, here's all your shit that I took and pieced together. Like, I don't know. That's how I think of Virgo. Very sneaky, calculated, detail oriented, and then using those details against you. Yeah. So that's Virgo. Leo, Virgo, Libra. Okay. How does Libra deal with conflict? Libra, Libra, Libra. Libra, I feel like, will kind of be straight up with it. and very balanced and righteous about it, to the point where it can be annoying because of the righteousness, because of the straightforward approach, because of the balance of it. Like it's like um I feel like Libras can see the situation clearly from the light side and the dark side. So because of that, they can just lay it out to you what they see. Libra the librarian, right? Like having the information and usually the correct facts. So it's like, yeah, I see this, yeah, I saw that you did this, and this is where how I'm gonna balance it out, right? And people hate that. People hate that in conflict, right? Especially someone, I feel like on the opposite polarity, Aries does not want to do that, right? Like it's like Libra's trying to find balance, Aries is trying to get it done. So that applies to the conflict. Libra is going to be like, this is what I see, and like, this is what I don't like, this is what I do like, this is where you're wrong. And like, just lay it out very straight and honestly cold, can be kind of cold, Queen of Swords about it, very cutting with the conflict. Yeah, cutting, very interesting now that I think about it. Yeah, for sure. Like very like Queen of Swords. Like, I'm not giving you shit, I'm just letting you know what I know, and this is what I think, and this is how it needs to be balanced, and bam. So that's Libra. Libra. Okay, Scorpio. Okay, so Scorpio deals with conflict in a very scary and also sneaky way. Like sometimes when I think of Virgo and Scorpio together, I'm like, oh gosh, what a team. Because Scorpio is like a swamp when there's so much beneath the water. Like it's like there you see a swamp, surrounded by trees, and it already has a very interesting mystical energy to it. But what's underneath the swamp, Lord knows. So that's how they deal with conflict. They may be very straightforward and kind of dazed over even when they communicate with you what their problem is. Calm, like not saying they don't get angry, but then what they're thinking and possibly planning at how to get back at you, it could get dark, very emotional, very psychologically, like psychological thriller. And I'm not saying like take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that all Scorpios are like this, but this is the energy of Scorpio. Nobody really wants to swim in a swamp. Do people swim in swamps? Not usually, right? Because it's like hella shit, weird stuff in there. It's still water. So it's like all kinds of stuff is in there just sitting there. So it's like Scorpio has that kind of like dark energy. So they'll give you, they may tell you how they feel, but they're not telling you everything that they feel, and they're not telling you either how they're really planning to if what they're thinking. It's just they're not going to tell you everything that they're thinking. That's what I think. There's more to it always, and it's like you probably won't get to the bottom of them ever. So that's just, you know what I mean? That's Scorpio energy. So when it's time for conflict, it's always like way more to the story, or way more to them than what they show you. And I feel like also there's definitely a grudge aspect there as well. Fixed water, So it's like the emotions stay there a long time. So it's like they're still feeling it and like working through it. It lives with them kind of. So that's what I'm feeling for Scorpio. Scorpio, Sagittarius. Okay, so Sagittarius is a star. I know it's like Aquarius is the star, but then there's also Sagittarius energy with the star. So I noticed that a Sag will find a way to find hope um for themselves. Like it's a very personal regrouping process for a Sagittarius. And I think that's kind of what the star is. Like, how do you find hope to move forward? You know, like if it's a star, there's many, many stars in the sky. So each star is a little different. So it's like for when you're in your star energy, how do you deal with it? But I always think of like the tower card, and then right after is the star card. And so it's that moment of after your tower, whether it be a big tower involving a lot of people or just a personal internal tower, after that, how do you temper the water, right? Like, how do you deal with the mess? And so Sagittarius will just find their own way to find hope. And it can be beautiful, but then it can also be, I mean, I think of the star in reverse, like discouraging, or even sometimes like just kind of trying to find hope, trying to find hope in the situation, which works really well for them, like a way, kind of a way to protect themselves and to like reprocess the situation and then find ways to grow through it. So that's what I noticed for Sagittarius energy. It's a good energy to work with, it's a lucky energy to work with when you think of manifestation. Either even I said either, I don't know why, but when you think of manifestation, I think like just dealing with the positive and the negative and then learning how to temper it. Um Learning how to temper both those energies and then coming to some kind of conclusion of how you're going to move forward. But that doesn't always mean that it's the right decision or the right way to move forward, but it's like what gives the Sagittarius hope could completely like not be helpful to anybody else but them, but it'll still be the hope that gets them going in the direction that they need to go in, right? So like after you argue, like they're dealing with these feelings and things and tempering it, and then the hope for them might mean to completely ghost you and never talk to you again. And to them, they figured it out and they have hope and they believe, you know, they've dealt with it and found that star in the sky. And it's like that's just how they do it. I don't know, I feel like that's Sag energy, like whatever gives me hope. And that's honestly a good, I feel like that's why Sag and Jupiter work together, because that's where that luck honestly comes from. It is lucky, like Sag is lucky in that way, even though it can hurt feelings, you know, at the same time. So that's Sag. Ba-ba-dum-ba-bum-bum. Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn. Okay, so in my mind, the darkest, like the energies that are just can be really dark with conflict and stuff like that is Virgo, Scorpio, and then Capricorn, and then Aries. Like those are the four signs in my mind and in the way that in the things that I've seen that can get really dark with it. Get very controlling, very like um OCD even. Like a Capricorn, like let's say a very egotistical Capricorn will like literally try and ruin your life over the conflict if they're mad enough. But it'll be like, I feel like using money, using dark desires, but using money and belongings as a way to get back at someone or that's like where the conflict will root from. Like, I'm gonna pay this person to handle this for me. I'm gonna, you know, or even like out of resentment, I'm gonna make more money. I'm gonna go to a strip club. I'm gonna like dealing with their own emotions, right? In that case, or I'm gonna um take some of your belongings away, right? Or like, you don't deserve to have that. I'm going to take that. Like, I just feel like because Capricorn is about the building up of what you have long term, right? Your accumulation. Capricorns use that accumulation to um as currency, but for everything, for anything, like for whatever they want to use it for. So it's like using currency as a means to deal with things. Even though sometimes it's like when it comes to people, currency doesn't really always have to be a part of it. But like using currency to help them do what they feel like they need to do to fix the conflict and to feel like they got what they deserve out of it. And then can be very cold and internal with that process. Like not really emotionally showing it, but then doing it, orchestrating orchestrating while being cold with you, you know. Okay, Capricorn, Aquarius. Aquarius, I feel like because Aquarius is a very free thinker, but Aquarius is also the star. I feel like there's this energy of kind of trying to float above, like get a bird's eye view of the situation, and then like making judgments from there, if that makes sense. Like using a higher mindset to deal with it. There's this Key and Peele skit where it's like having Neil deGrasse Tyson as a husband. And it's like, I don't know, the wife comes in and it's like, Neil, I need you to clean this part of the house. You always say you're going to do it and you never do it. And then he's all like, the difference with doing it compared to saying that you're going to do it is these calculations and this many da 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 of the sky and this da 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 da. And right, you like, you know, Neil deGrasse Tyson, like he has all this knowledge, right? So like using that knowledge as a way to like rise completely above and beyond the root of the issue. And it's like when you need a higher mindset as a way to fix it, Aquarius is perfect for that. But then it's like at the same time, it's like this like mastermind way of rearranging it and then making it make sense, where you might even be confused at the end of the conflict. Like, what did we resolve? Because you just gave me a lot of like mastermind, you masterminded it, but I'm still like the issue, right? Like she's like, but the problem still is that you didn't clean what's here that I asked you that you would. You said you do it and you didn't do it though, and that's still not done. But then it's like they can like create this whole thing to make you kind of, does that make sense? Like just rise above it and then work some kind of, what is it making me think of, puppeteer energy, but like mental puppeteer, of like finding this higher mindset to like curve around the true issue. So, you know, when it's time for a smarter way, right, to work something, go Aquarius. But then when it's like when we need to get grounded and just do the thing, probably not so much Aquarius, right? So notice where you have it in your chart, right? I don't know. That's just something that I see with that, with Aquarius energy. Higher mind, for better or for worse. And then Pisces. I think Pisces can get a little like lost in it, lost in the conflict and the feelings that come with it, where it's kind of like you can't really catch them either, if that makes sense. Like how they're dealing with it, it's like you don't even really see it all because it's so much. It's like trying to catch a fish in the water, or like trying to like run after a fish, but you're not a fish. Like unless you're a Pisces also. And then it's like thinking of the two fish, right? So like going in all these different directions and just um like what is the word that I'm looking for? Just kind of like you just never know. Like the ocean, always changing, moving. You don't know. You don't know. And because I've learned Pisces being the 12th sign has all the other signs attributes within it creating Pisces. So it's like it's just this big old ocean of all kinds of stuff. So whatever they decide to use that day, depending on how they feel, there could be manipulation involved. They could manipulate you. They could just decide they're okay with it. They could just go behind your back. They could, you know, apologize. They could almost apologize. They could, like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of like you just never really know. And it's like, it's hard to really catch and process with a Pisces because their processing process is complicated. So I feel like it can also even feel like hard to reach them, or like you don't really know if anything was ever resolved, or like what the resolving is. A little bit also of Neil deGrasse Tyson energy. Neil deGrasse, is that his last name? Please don't have me, I don't want to be saying it wrong, but I'll just say Neil deGrasse. That kind of energy too, but emotionally based. Like if Aquarius is using their mind to in a lower nature manipulate, Pisces is using like their emotions in a lower nature to manipulate through the conflict, or like to deal with it emotionally. So it's like hard to catch, hard to understand. You know what I mean? Um yeah. So that's all 12. I got through it in a good amount of time. I feel like I got to like the root of what I've noticed and what I've seen. Let me see if there's anything that I'm forgetting now that I went through so quickly. Yeah, okay. And then also, because I was thinking of Pisces, like if you think of if Pisces is the beach, imagine like somebody sitting at the beach to deal, like to get away. Like I feel like Pisces will also like try and get away from it and like remove themselves from it and then go do something like that. But it's like, what do you do when you're sitting at a beach? You kind of zone out and then feel all the feels. Like, I feel like that's what the beach brings. And like, that's kind of Pisces energy, feeling all the feels and like they're out there. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, you're reaching out almost, but it's just, oh God, you like saw under my nails, but it's like reaching out, you know? Like, you're like reaching out, but there's just so much going on, right? You can't catch it all. So that's kind of Pisces energy. And you never really know what you'll get. So that's the 12 signs and how they deal with conflict, according to me, sensitive sojourner. And thanks for watching. I hope this helps. I hope you relate. Let me know, you know, if you agree, if you deal with conflict in that way. And then add like other things you do if it relates to you, if you relate. All right, so thanks for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.